I'd like to call the Rutherford County School Board October 14th, 2021 board meeting to order. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Ms. Claire Maxwell. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. I'd like to invite our guests to join me in a moment of silence. This evening, I'd like to ask you to remember Jennifer Baker, an EA of ours, and Mr. Larry Mooney. We've lost both of them over fall break, so please remember them in the moment of silence. Thank you. Item number 4, approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Young.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain from a vote? Item passes. Number 5, approval of the consent agenda. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Estes. Thank you, Mr. Young. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Nay.
Any member wish to abstain from the vote? Item passes. Next item is visitors, number 6. Our first visitor is Mr. Sam Buckaloo.
Good evening. I'm Sam Buckley, a father of a district student and member of SAFE RCS leadership, resident of Rutherford County. I'm here today to share with you some statistics from our Tennessee County COVID positivity numbers. You should each have a line graph that I was shared earlier, showing Rutherford County and 7 surrounding counties' positivity rates over time. Each county is assigned its own color. It is look at positivity numbers as the weeks for each county school system progresses, starting with the week prior to the start of school. As you look at the line graph, each county has its own unique color to designate changes in positivity over time. You will notice the 2 counties that have the lowest overall positivity averages are Williamson and Davidson, designated as the green and black lines. Both counties have had mask requirements since the start of their school year. The lines look like a nice hill to walk over. In comparison, you can see the other 6 counties, including us, with higher positivity averages and larger peaks since the start of school. That is up until around week 5, when 2 of those counties, Rutherford and Wilson, the blue and the purple, initiated a mask requirement for their schools. In the following weeks, Rutherford and Wilson left that upper cluster and moved down with the lower positivity counties of Davidson and Williamson. The 2 no mask required school counties started the school year, notice, that a lower positivity rate than the 2 best overall performing, the Davidson and Williamson, that would be Cannon and Coffee. But look at what happens as the COVID spreads in their communities. They have larger peaks, achieve higher peaks in mid-20s, higher positivity. Coffee experienced a double peak. Non-masking Marshall County, within 1% of our vaccination rate, achieved a 28.3% positivity rate. The evidence is clear. Counties with masking in their schools demonstrate better control over COVID spread than the counties without masking in their schools. The better COVID is controlled in community with fewer missed school days, less illness, fewer deaths, and less stress in the availability of the healthcare system. Just another note is in Tennessee, from the start of the pandemic up until July 31st of this year, 506 days, we had sadly lost 10 students to COVID. The 71 days since then, August 1st till now, lost another 10. So unfortunately, I think it's very important that we try and use as many interventions as possible to try and slow the spread of COVID. And I think it'd be a smart approach for us to use masking, continue as a approach to having based on our positivity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next visitor is Sarah. Forgive me, I think it says Soup. Sorry.
That is okay for trying. My name is Sarah Saisuka, and I am a student at Siegel High School. I live in Murfreesboro. Firstly, I would like to applaud the board for taking action to enact policies that will restore some decorum to our school board meetings. I think only allowing people who live in Rutherford County to speak at meetings and creating guidelines for holding people responsible for their actions while in attendance is a positive step in the right direction. Secondly, after the meeting in September when we made national news, it is refreshing to see positive stories about Rutherford County schools being reported. Today, U.S. News and World Report ranked 2 of our middle schools, Central Magnet and Thurman Francis, in the top 3 middle schools in Tennessee who are performing well above expectations, and McFadden, the number 1 ranked elementary school in Tennessee. I firmly believe that the mask mandates have allowed students to be in school more and avoid having to quarantine, thus allowing teachers to teach and students to learn, and we will continue to see the fruits of that labor. Lastly, as Mr. Buckley stated, our COVID cases are decreasing, and as we mourn 2 more Rutherford County School staff members passing due to COVID, adding to an unfortunate list of 20, I have hope that we are doing our part and protecting our students and our school staff with mask mandates because that has a ripple effect through our county and helps stop the spread. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Our next guest is Grady Knox.
Thank you so much for seeing me. So the first thing is we can see that the decision to put masks in place worked last time. Our COVID cases have gone down, as I'm sure a lot of people will tell you, and they're really helping with our numbers overall. The county's numbers entirely have gone down because of the school board's decision, and so it's really just been an enormous help. And from what I see as a student at Central Magnet, is more kids are in class and we're not losing the educational value that we have on, that we would be missing because of the kinds of things that we would be missing if we got contact traced. And so that's really what's most important. So far, I think that what we're doing is really great and we need to continue with it and maybe even consider the opt-out, as 3 federal courts in Tennessee have ruled the opt-out is against federal law, so maybe our school district could also put that in place where we don't have an opt-out anymore. And then because we still have some people dying in the school district, so that would just minimize that risk even more. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I've been sitting here since 1:45 today. I was the very first person to turn my slip in to talk, and I would like to speak tonight.
Ma'am, we're going to go through the items as I receive them.
Here all day.
I understand that. I'm going to go through these as they were received. Geneva Cook is our next visitor.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you tonight. My name is Geneva Cook, and I serve as president of the Rutherford Education Association. I'm here tonight to submit to you a petition containing the signatures of Rutherford County educators regarding collaborative conferencing. As this board knows, Tennessee law recognizes that a collaborative relationship between the board and its professional employees will assist in the establishment and maintenance of an educational climate and working environment that will attract and retain a highly qualified professional staff. Collaborative conferencing, or PECA, recognizes the obligations of the board and its teachers to collaborate on matters relating to the terms and conditions of professional employee service, and sets forth a process whereby we can work together towards producing an agreement or a memorandum of understanding on issues such as salary, insurance, and working conditions. We in Rutherford County are very fortunate to have gone through this process with the district in the past and already have an existing memorandum of understanding which is valid. Your ratification of our prior MOU affirms to educators in Rutherford County that you value our work and our opinions. We appreciate the opportunity to collaborate on matters that are essential to attracting and retaining a highly qualified professional staff so that together we can achieve the highest possible educational standards in our school district. So why am I here before you tonight with another round of signatures requesting to start this process again? The answer is quite simple. The law puts this burden on educators to obtain signatures every 3 years and to submit these signatures to you in the specific month of October. As the board knows, under the law, once this petition has been submitted to you, the board then has the duty to appoint an equal number of board members and professional employees to serve on a special question committee who will set up the conditions and particulars of conducting a confidential pool of all eligible professional employees. The confidential poll is a vote by teachers about whether they would like to engage in collaborative conferencing. As president of the association, I would be honored to accept an appointment to be on the special question committee if this board sees fit. Again, thank you for accepting this position, and REA looks forward to working with you on this process going forward. I have the petition here. May I approach the chair with the petition?
Thank you. Appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, before we move on, I want to say I appreciate everybody being here. I appreciate your cooperation in not speaking out, not interrupting the process of this meeting. If you interrupt again, I will ask you to be removed. Our next guest is Chris Littleton.
Pardon my casual appearance, busy after school. This is always a tough time. I would love to see the board move this to maybe 7 o'clock. It's a little bit easier on parents, people coming home from work. Just a quick thought. I want to read a quote by the board attorney that was sent to me in response to basically questioning the problems that I've continued to question for the last 3 board meetings, which is that there's very little transparency and the board is frankly operating outside of its own rules regularly. The attorney said, the Board of Education does not act exclusively through the policies in the policy manual, and there is no statute that restricts the Board of Education to only act through these revisions in the policy manual. Why do you have a policy manual then? But at this point, the COVID policies specifically have been completely pushed off onto the director of schools. You guys chose to do that. I don't blame him for that. I blame the board. And every single time I've come to the board meeting, because I've been engaging for just since the end of last year, really, what I've learned is that the incompetence is just the tip of the iceberg, because every time I engage with the board, sometimes I'm flat out lied to. Lied to my face, I'm lied to. Sometimes I'm hung up on the phone just by asking, how do you come to your decision-making process? Well, there isn't one. And there's certainly no desire to have the public, parents, I have 3 kids in schools, engage in this process. Because right now, we're going to have I've got a minute and a half left to speak to you, not with you, not in any kind of collaborative process. In fact, the 2 emails I've continued to send, and there will be more to come, have been ignored completely by the board. I've asked for discussion. I've said, let's have a little bit of a change to this process. Let's talk through things. Nobody wants to do that. Even the person that I was referred to at a previous board meeting, not responding to what at the time the chairman said, please speak with this person. They'll engage in a process. Now, we're about to pass this evening rules that are going to restrict engagement even further, which frankly, some of them are First Amendment violations. One of the ones that is most concerning to me is that the chairman is going to have the ability to have a speaker removed if the speaker makes repetitive comments that other speakers have already made. People have a right to come before elected officials and voice their opinion. It is not up to a board member to decide, that's a little repetitive. And also, at another board meeting, a chairman said, that'd just be really difficult for us to have more meetings. It would take up a lot more of our time. It's your job. It is quite literally your responsibility to this community to do these things. So stop pushing off parents, stop dumping our voices in the toilet, stop ignoring us, and stop creating rules that are barring us from doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing, which is engaging elected officials with regards to public policy.
Our next guest is John Dickey.
Good evening. I would like to first address the board. Your mask mandate has been a tremendous success. In the last month, cases have gone down from roughly 1,000 to about 100. That is a 90% decrease, and it has been a great success, and you are all to be commended for voting for it. However, we still have to reduce a margin of error that exists in our schools. About 4,500 people opted out of the mask mandate. That margin of error has created many of these remaining COVID cases that might cause another outbreak. We need to take swift action to ensure the safety of our students, because I respect other people's freedom. I think it's a good thing. But at some point, we have to make a decision has to be made to protect everyone in the schools and to protect the community as a whole. So when you vote for the mask mandate tonight, I hope that you vote to remove the opt-out, because we have federal backing. We will be protected if we are sued, and it's the right thing to do, and it's the best thing we can do for the community. Thank you.
Our next guest is Timothy Hinote.
Hello again. I'm here to talk to you tonight, just briefly, about, I believe this is the third board meeting since you've been voted in as the chairwoman. I do want to congratulate you on your position, but I find it very disappointing that in the brief time that you've been in office, you've already masked my children, and now you are trying to put a mask and muzzle the parents and limit their ability to come speak to you. And I just want to know why. What are we saying to you guys that's offensive? We're questioning you. That's our right. It is our right to come before you, to petition you, peacefully, if you will. You posted a video recently asking for transparency. You wanted to work with us, but this does not give that optics. And in fact, this is the opposite. This looks like you want to push us out. You know, I do echo Chris's response in that these meetings are hard to get to at 5 o'clock. That's one limitation for parents to get here. Another, also, when I've tried to email, no response. Other parents, limited response. So what opportunity do we have to engage you guys outside of this meeting? You know, we can have parents from our organization with Rutherford Students First that may, in fact, have different opinions. Why can't they come and speak? They deserve to have the right to come up and speak, even if what they're saying is the same things that other people before them have said. And I echo Chris's sentiment about the chairwoman having the ability to remove somebody because they are repetitive. They deserve to have your time, just like every other parent in this room. If they submit the form, they have the right to speak their mind. I don't think any of this is a coincidence. I do feel that all this falls on the heels of the news with the Attorney General and the DOJ and everything and how that's going down. But there's other concerns that I think we could spend our time on. You know, recently we had vandalism across the country. There's been violence in our schools. What are we doing about that? How much did that cost our school system to repair after the TikTok challenge? What about the parents that have been voicing their concerns about materials in the libraries? Nothing's happened about that. Nothing. You know, The parents also have the ability to remove somebody. We can remove speakers as well. This comes up every year in November. We have the right to elect someone else that will represent. Ma'am, I am in your district. I am an active voter. Listen to us and do not block parents' ability to speak to you. Thank you.
Next guest, Delaney Reynolds.
After the past month, we have seen plenty of evidence on the effectiveness of masks on preventing and regulating the spread of the COVID-19 virus. Since the mask mandate was issued for schools, we have seen COVID cases drop to around 8% of what they were in August. The 7-day average for COVID cases dropped from 409 cases on the day the mask mandate was issued to 89 as of yesterday. It is blatantly evident that in our hallways and classrooms that this mandate has kept our students in school and learning. These past few years have been anything but ordinary, but this mandate has given our students some normalcy. These students here tonight are the ones walking the hall. They're the ones in the classroom. These students here tonight are the ones your decisions will affect. I urge you to continue that path towards normalcy by extending the mask mandate so we can keep our students in school and learning. Thank you.
Our next guest is Chase Williams.
The road to perdition is paved with good intentions. Let that sink in for a minute. I've sat and listened to all these other speakers talk about the evidence of your mask wearing. The simple fact of the matter is, regarding to what Grady Knox brought up, the federal judge said that the governor did not have the authority to issue that executive order. He did not say that the school board does not have the power to issue an opt-out clause. Simple fact of the matter is, this board has violated parents' rights up and down the chain. And only 2 of you have fought to protect those rights. We, the people, are tired of it. I'm not here to talk to you. I'm a taxpayer, I'm a constituent, and I'm a citizen, and I am voicing my constitutionally protected right to tell you what you are going to do. This has to stop. You want to go back to normalcy? Stop pitting these parents against those parents, because that's what you're doing. This is a joke and a farce. You don't follow your own policy. I mean, you're 1.400, are those the signs you're afraid of? Because they speak a little truth and they may make somebody uncomfortable. You are servants of the people. You are not our masters. And if you can't do the right thing, then tonight, right now, I am calling for your public resignation. Because it is a disgrace to Tennessee. It is a disgrace to Rutherford County. So you need to do the right thing. You want to extend your mask mandate? That's fine. Where does it stop? What's next? The White House has already said that they're going to issue guidance if you want more ESSER funds that you're going to have to force vaccinate kids. Is that the next step? Is that what you're going to do? You're going to force parents and use the, let's see, what is it the governor came out with, the mature minor, so you can jab kids without their parents' consent? Do you realize the lawsuits you're lining yourselves up for? Do you contemplate that? I've seen your legal team. I'm not impressed. Please let sanity prevail. Do the right thing. Some of you call yourselves conservatives. You are acting like nothing like a conservative. It's time to end this madness. You cannot stop viral transmission. And it's a farce if you think you can. People get sick. It happens every day. But we have to live our lives, and these parents have to be able to make choices for their children. Choices you specifically are denying them.
Our next visitor is Rachel Robinson. Rachel Robinson?
Hello. I brought a map of Arizona that I paid very good money for, thank you. That is where we moved here from, to raise my family in 2015, where I lived my entire life. My name is Rachel Robinson. I live in Murfreesboro. You know, the mask mandates, I feel the same today as I felt last month when I stood before this committee and I informed you all that you will not put a mask on my children and silence their voices. Let's be honest, really, this has nothing to do with masks. This has nothing to do with protecting vaccinated against unvaccinated, against all this other BS. I mean, come on. Viruses go around every single day. If you don't let your body take care of itself, what are you going to do? Curl up in a ball and die, right? Where am I at here? I have other things to discuss with this committee besides the masks, like the lack of physical education time afforded to our children when they're in the schoolroom, Monday through Friday. Tennessee is number 4 in the United States for the most obese states. I think that's something that we need to have a serious discussion about, since 3 out of 5 days of the week our children are allowed to go outside and play because it's raining or it's too hot or it's too cold, etc. Also, this pamphlet, I'd like to bring light to this pamphlet that was given to my 6-year-old son in 1st grade on Monday, okay? Because this is a serious problem right here, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you, this is no joke. Where am I at here? I wrote this whole thing out so I could be straight with my thoughts. The fact that you want to cancel Columbus Day in exchange for Indigenous Peoples Day, however, you also want to keep Thanksgiving. Because I had a hard time on Monday night explaining to my son why it is we celebrate Thanksgiving. If Christopher Columbus was such a SOB to everybody, why in the world 1 month later would they sit down at a beautiful feast and give thanks for what they had? Because it just doesn't make any sense to me. Right? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. Okay, where am I at here? So, this is really about going against Big Brother, which is what I think it is, pushing back against a Big Brother. Because it's not about our kids anymore, right? I mean, our kids' well-being be damned. In this Tennessee Studies Weekly, Miss Carissa Neely, the author of these studies right here, has selected multiple pointed facts to focus on.
Thank you.
To learn, to make learning fun and easy.
Ma'am, your time has expired.
When I asked my 6-year-old son if he knew what Columbus Day was, do you want to know what he told me?
Our next guest.
He said, yeah, it's when Christopher Columbus sailed to the New World and killed all the people so he could take their land and their gold. The one fact that my 6-year-old son learned from your
Ma'am, your
day
time is
on
over.
Monday in school was Christopher Columbus sailed over here to kill people. How dare you expose a 6-year-old boy to this ugly hate?
Our
Look
next.
at the border, ma'am, of Arizona, where I grew up. I was raised
Your
around
time
the
is
Navajo
expired, ma'am. Thank you for your time.
Indian people, the Zuni Indian people, and they are Native American. They are not American Indians. That is very offensive to them, as a matter of fact. And I guarantee you that instead of worrying about Indigenous Peoples Day, ma'am, they are more concerned with the fact that they cannot buy bread and milk to put on their shelf.
Ma'am,
And when they do have
you're
money
being
to do
disruptive.
that, the
Please
grocery
remove
store
her.
is completely empty. Completely empty, ma'am.
Our next guest.
I think that is what they're concerned about, ma'am. I don't think it has anything to do with the vaccination and covering our mouths and silencing our voices.
Our next guest is Barbara Dillman.
I've come to pray. Father, oh God, we ask you to come and be in this board meeting. Lord, bring unity and cooperation. Your word says that you are not a God of confusion and chaos. So we ask for your peace and the ability to listen and to speak with wisdom and clarity. Show us how to work together. Please remind us, Father, that our children watch us and look to us as models for problem solving. Enable us to set good examples for them and lead them in working together for the good of all. Father, we ask you to stop any program or curriculum or anything that would be harmful to our children. Allow us to see the danger and reject it. Show us how to be patient and tolerant of each other without tolerating the dangerous things. Enable us to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and abounding in kindness. Holy Spirit, we invite you into this meeting. We ask for your help and your wisdom as decisions are made for our children. Our most precious resources have been entrusted to this body. They will spend more time in classrooms and be influenced in far greater ways than perhaps any other place in their lives. Help us understand the responsibility and make careful decisions that are guided by your word and your wisdom. Lord, these men and women have been given a monumental task, and one that comes with great criticism and little reward. Remind them that the reward of their work, Father, is far-reaching and long-lasting. Give them strength to seek you, Lord, for understanding and how best to educate and protect our children. Lord, we commit this meeting to you. We ask you to come and be a part of every decision that will be made, from those that seem to be inconsequential to those that we think are the most important. Help us, oh God. Our eyes are on you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stillman.
That's all our visitors this evening. Number 7.
Yes, spotlight on education. We want to congratulate the following Rutherford County students for being named National Merit semifinalists. As I call your name, if you would come forward. Miles Lee, Hope Clark, Geneva Beniza, Ellie Burton, Miriam Danielson, Logan Kelly, Douglas Thibodeau, Micah Warren. These are all from Central Magnet. Let's give them a hand. Thank you, guys. All right, next, from Oakland High School, Elizabeth Beth Nelson. Thank you. And the last one is attended Stewart's Creek High School freshman year, currently attends Tennessee Online Public School, Grayson Latanzi. See here, Latanzi? Not here? Okay. All right, that's all.
Congratulations. Wonderful. Okay, board members, moving on. We do need to move an item up to afford Mr. Bodery to get to a county commission meeting. If it's all right, we'd like to move financial matters, item 1 and 2.
All right, financial matters. Item 1, found on tab 5, the Oakland High School Baseball Booster Club Turf Project request. The Oakland High School Baseball Booster Club Incorporated is asking permission from the Rutherford County School Board to install turf on the Oakland High School baseball field. This project will be 100% funded by the OHS Baseball Booster Club and an unsecured loan of $250,000 that will be payable by the Booster Club. The attached document detailing the project has been reviewed by the Assistant Superintendent of Budget and Finance for financial compliance, as well as Rutherford County Staff Attorney and Rutherford County Athletic Director for legal and Title IX compliance. Contingent on the school board approval, the turf purchase will be made through the RCS Purchasing Department utilizing Sourcewell Consortium bid, and upon completion of this project, Rutherford County Engineering will inspect the construction to ensure that it complies with bid specifications. It is stressed that the turf project becomes a donated asset for OHS Baseball Booster Club to Rutherford County Schools, and at that time of donation, there will be no liens on donated property as attested by the OHS Baseball Booster Club and verified by the Rutherford County School Board Attorney. Recommend motion to approve OHS Baseball Booster Project request as presented with no cost of construction to the Rutherford County Board of Education as presented.
Thank you. Are there any questions or discussion on this item? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Estes. Thank you, Mr. Young. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain from a vote? Item passes. Next item.
All right, next item, fiscal year 2020-2021 internal school activity fund report and approval of prior year activity fund accounts payable. The fiscal year 2020-2021 internal school activity fund report has been issued by the board's contracted CPA audit firm, Matlock Clement CPAs, for the school board's review and approval. The report contains the detailed year-end balances and financial operations for the fiscal year for all Rutherford County schools that have an internal school activity fund. The audit report contains 4 audit findings and have an internal school activity fund. The audit report contains 4 audits this year at Blackman, 4 audits, which would include one at Blackman High, Laverne Middle, McFadden Elementary, and Siegel High. They've been reviewed in the school principals and bookkeepers of these 4 schools. The report contains a corrective action plan that was submitted by each one of the principals of their 4 schools. It details how they will correct these audit findings promptly. The audit report also provides audited balances of unliquidated fiscal year 2021 accounts payable by individual schools, which the board votes to approve annually as required by the Tennessee Internal School Uniform Accounting Policy Manual. Recommend motion to approve the acceptance of the fiscal year 2020-21 Internal School Activity Fund report as presented by the school board's contract audit firm, as well as approval of the balance of the unliquidated fiscal year 2020-21 year-end accounts payables of individual schools as detailed in the audited financial statements of the Internal School Activity Fund report as presented.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? I have a question, Mr. Boderine. Can you explain how do we determine who's going to be audited? Is there a cycle, a process? Is there any information you can provide us on this?
Every single account that has county funds in it, by state law, the state comptroller or their designee, which this is the CPA firm that's their designee, would audit that. They go by accounting standards of what exactly they look at. They typically go, they'll go by accounting standards promulgated by the AICPA plus the Yellow Book for governmental auditing standards. They'll select like representative samples throughout the finances and the financial transactions. They'll test internal controls. They'll look for fraud. And then, of course, they report their findings. Like we have these 4 items that they said, okay, there was some non-compliance here, and there's some minor items they found, and the principals have already created corrective action plans. If they've not fixed them already, they're in the process. But that, in a nutshell, is how that audit works for these activity funds.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Seeing no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I move.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell.
A second.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain from a vote? Item passes. Okay, we'll return to item number 8.
Number 8, mask requirement discussion and modification. Mr. Evans, is there any other data that you want to present?
Mr. Spurlock, you just asked me to give the update for this week.
Yes.
What I gave on Tuesday was for up to the Friday before fall break. So this week we've had 69 positives reported for students. As of or on today, we had 392 students who were absent for quarantine, which is a much reduced number. It's one of the lowest numbers we've seen this year. And for employees this week, we've had 10 positives, and we have only 16 that are on quarantine tomorrow. Another huge drop in what we've been seeing close to the beginning of the year. And that's what I have.
Can you give us an update on the number of percentage of opt-out?
Yes, sir. I said 13% as of right before this meeting.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion?
Well, I would like to discuss, the numbers are trending in such a good way, not just in our school system, but in the county and everywhere in Tennessee. I was hoping that our numbers are close. They're really close. If we extend and we don't do anything in 3 weeks, would it naturally, if the numbers continue for the next 3 weeks to go down as they are, the mask mandate would expire? Is that correct?
Want me to read it?
Yeah, Ms. Bratton,
Please, because I may want to.
This is the original motion. The temporary mask requirement shall automatically terminate if the average weekly Rutherford County COVID-19 positivity rate is 10% or lower for 3 consecutive weeks. Okay, was that what you were asking?
Yes.
Okay.
I just want to make sure.
Okay. If you want me to read it all?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. If the temporary mask requirement terminates earlier than 30 days and the Rutherford County COVID-19 positivity rate becomes 15% or higher, the temporary mask requirement shall automatically be reinstated. If a mask student comes into contact with an individual with COVID-19, the mask student shall not be required to quarantine unless the mask student is exhibiting COVID-19 symptoms. And this says the temporary mask requirement will be reviewed at this board meeting, October 14th.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton.
Well, since we're close, but we're not there, and I would like to amend or change it just slightly and allow for an opt-out for our employees and for our teachers. I feel bad they've not been able to take part in the opt-out, and I really feel strongly that we should at least vote on allowing them to have an opt-out as well. And I do think that I think things are going to trend very much in our favor over the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. I happen to agree with you. I think that would be a... Mr. Reed, could you come and help us, please? So, Ms. Maxwell, would you like to make a motion to amend? How would we go about doing this?
I would like to make a motion to amend the previous motion to allow for teachers and other employees to opt out as well.
I think you have 2 issues before you. First of all, is whether you're going to continue the current requirement or not. So if we are going to continue the current requirement, we would have to have a motion to continue the current requirement, but modify it such that we allow the employees and staff of the Rutherford County School System to opt out as well. So that will be your motion if you're moving to continue the mask requirement.
I assumed that we had to continue it because it wasn't we're at 10.30, not under 10. So that's why I didn't know I had to continue.
Well, it came back before the board today after 30 days were up for you to revisit the issue. So that's what's back before the board tonight.
Okay, so I guess I would like to make a motion that we continue with the mask mandate for the next couple of weeks until we see 3 weeks, and then but allow for the employees, teachers, staff to opt out as well as all students.
So I think that's appropriate motion if we would have to have a second on that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. Mr. Reed, as chairperson, I can second that motion, can I not?
Yes.
I would second that motion. Having a first and a second, all in favor, actually, Ms. Hopkins, can we do a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Estes?
No.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Ms. Maxwell?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
No, and I'd like to state why. I agree that teachers and employees ought to be able to opt out as well, but I cannot vote to support continuing the requirement for masks to begin with, so my vote is no.
Ms. Sharp?
No, for the same reason.
Ms. Bratton?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes. Motion passes, thank you. Item number 9, moving on. We visited rezoning at our work session. We will not discuss that any further this evening. Any additional questions?
Just give you an update. Next week, the 2 principals that are involved in this will be coming in and working with Mr. Morgan. Anytime that they make a request modification, we'll send it to each board member.
Thank you. Next item, number 10.
Rethink Forward amended application. Dr. Sullivan.
Just as a review of what we discussed the other night, this is just a little bit of the same thing, just a review of where our timelines were. And then going on to the next page, as a reminder of your kind of 2 options for today. And you have this in front of you as well, a stapled copy of it, and we are now on page 2. And so for page 2, your 2 options were to recommend to approve Rethink Forward's amended application or recommend to deny their application. I think Mr. Reed has both resolutions, as the board would have to adopt a resolution either way. On the 3rd page, just as a reminder, when we went through the initial application in July, was to all of the individual sections had to have a score. The scores from the state of Tennessee's scoring rubric are either meets or exceeds the standard, partially meets the standard, or does not meet standard. On the next page is a reminder of our just overview. Nothing has changed here from July. Rethink Forward is the sponsor, Rutherford Collegiate Prep, and then you kind of see the different components there with their enrollment and capacity as well, location, zoning, all those things. On the next page, just as a reminder of what Section 1 covered. Section 1 looked at the school mission and vision, enrollment, academic focus and plan, academic performance standards. 1.5 and 1.6 do not apply, as we do not have a phase-in or turnaround school, and Rethink is applying to run K-5 eventually through K-8. Then we have assessments, school calendar and schedule, special populations, school culture and discipline, recruitment and enrollment, and then parent and community engagement and support. On the next one, this was the scoring you will see across the top. Section 1, you have all those indicators with NA with 1.5 and 1.6. You have meets or exceeds the standard, partially meets the standard, and does not meet standard on the initial application. On the next one, you will see the review committee's changes. There were quite a bit of improvements here. We have several that have moved to the partially meet standard and a couple that have moved to the meets or exceeds standard. But the amended application for Section 1 is partially meets standard, was our review committee score for Section 1. Moving on to Section 2, we have governance, startup, facilities, personnel, professional development, insurance, transportation, food service, additional operations, charter management, and then waivers. As a reminder of what the scores were based on our review committee from the initial application, you will see we had several in the partially meet standard, several in does not meet, and 2 in the meets or exceeds. And then for the amended application, we had then 4, 4, and 4 actually. And so again, this would be a partially meet standard. Moving to Section 3. Section 3, the planning and budget narrative. Originally with our planning and budget worksheet. On the next slide, our initial was does not meet standard. And based on our review, that has not changed. That does not meet standard still for the 3rd time. On Monday, you had all of the information. So Rethink submitted an amended application, and then Rethink also submitted a written response to most of our concerns that we had. We felt it judicious to make sure that we were going through and also providing a response to that, which you were given on Monday, with quite a few pages of different notes that you could look at. And so that gets us to where our motion is for tonight, to either approve or deny. And Sheree, I think I'll turn it over to you.
If you recall, with charter applications, we have to act on them by resolution. So you have 2 resolutions before you tonight. There is one resolution which is basically approves the charter school application. You have a second that denies the charter school application. In the event the Board of Education was to deny the application, you have to cite reasons for the denial. So the resolution we have adopted, that we have proposed here for the denial, actually incorporates the comments of the review committee that you've heard the reports about. But if you bear with me, I do have to present both of these resolutions, and ultimately the board will have to decide whether it's going to adopt the resolution either approving the charter school or the resolution denying the charter school. So those are the 2 resolutions you have before you. The first possible resolution is whereas the Tennessee Public Charter Schools Act, TCA Section 49-13-101, establishes the process for charter schools, and whereas TCA Section 49-13-108 provides that local boards of education shall rule by resolution on whether to approve or deny a charter school application, and whereas at its July 22nd, 2021 board meeting, the Rutherford County Board of Education considered Rethink Forward, Inc.'s applicant charter school application for Rutherford Collegiate Prep, and whereas the Rutherford County Board of Education voted on July 22nd, 2021 to deny applicant's charter school application, and whereas the applicants resubmitted the application in accordance with state law for reconsideration by the Rutherford County Board of Education, and said Board of Education reconsidered the same at its October 14th, 2021 meeting, and whereas the Rutherford County Board of Education voted to approve the applicant's resubmitted charter school application, therefore be it resolved by vote of the board members, blank in favor and blank against, on the blank day of October 2021, that the Rutherford County Board of Education approve the charter application resubmitted by applicant and has resolved to enter into a charter agreement with applicant incorporating the terms and conditions set forth in applicant's application. So that is the resolution approving the charter school application if the board decides to go that route. So the second resolution that you have before you is a resolution denying Rethink Forward application for charter school. And the resolution denying it recites all the first things we read as well in the first one, but then it says, whereas the Rutherford County Board of Education has considered the amended application of applicant for Rutherford Collegiate Prep, now therefore be it hereby resolved, a vote of the Rutherford County Board of Education. Number 1, the applicant Rethink Forward, Inc.'s amended application to form Rutherford Collegiate Prep is hereby denied. Number 2, the grounds for the denial are as follows. The board adopts the findings of the Charter Review Committee concerning the amended application, which are incorporated herein by reference as if fully stated verbatim herein, and which are attached hereto as Exhibit A. The board additionally adopts the findings of the Charter Review Committee to the original application attached hereto as Exhibit B. And those are the findings that you've heard Dr. Sullivan report on with respect both to the first submittal and the amended submittal that we received from the charter applicant. B, additionally, the board finds that the amended application does not meet or exceed the standards of the Tennessee Department of Education's application scoring rubric. Specifically, none of the 3 applicable portions of the amended application, the academic plan, the operations plan, or the financial plan, meet or exceed the Tennessee Department of Education standards. C, applicant fails to meet the criteria set forth in the Tennessee State Board of Education's quality authorization standards found in Tennessee State Board of Education Policy Number 6.111. Applicant's submitted application fails to meet or exceed the standard in each category of the State of Tennessee's scoring rubric related to the quality authorizing standard, the academic plan, the operations plan, and the financial plan. To meet or exceed the standard, applicants' responses must be characterized as follows. The response reflects a thorough understanding of key issues. It clearly aligns with the mission and vision of the school. The response includes specific and accurate information that shows thorough preparation. Additionally, applicant has failed to meet the requirements of said authorizing standards for the following reasons. I, applicant's mission statement does not indicate in measurable terms what the school intends to do, for whom, and to what degree. II, applicant has presented insufficient evidence demonstrating community support, with no local letters of support being submitted and no letters of support from parents, teachers, or community members within Rutherford County. No local letters of support were submitted despite state requirements and review committee comments regarding insufficient evidence of support within Rutherford County. Attachment E to the application purports to be a list of Rutherford County residents, but Attachment E only indicates a list of first names and does not provide any specific statement as to what those referenced individuals are purporting to assert. Attachment E only contains the first names of 114 people. No last names were provided. Rutherford County currently serves over 49,000 students and a population in excess of 332,000. Even giving the applicant the benefit of doubt and assuming the 114 people were Rutherford County residents which were supportive of the applicant's application, the lack of any more than 114 indicates a lack of any material local support for the application. 114 people would represent less than even a fifth of 1% of the students in the school system. Applicant has responded to the review committee's concerns about a lack of local letters of support from parents, teachers, or community leaders by submitting a letter from Horizon Education Alliance in Indiana, principal of Four Corners Charter in Florida, and the president of Illinois Network of Charter Schools. The resubmitted application of applicants still does not include any local letters of support from within Rutherford County. Additionally, the only one letter of support from within Tennessee appears to be from an individual which references the individual support of collaboration between applicant and Metro Nashville Public Schools. The letter is not even pertaining to Rutherford County. That letter is further evidence of the applicant's lack of a specific understanding of the needs of Rutherford County students and appears to reflect a cookie-cutter approach to the application at hand by merely submitting a replication of the applicant's application for Nashville Collegiate Prep in Metro Davidson County. And it cites Attachment E, a letter of support from one individual for the partnership between Metro Nashville Public Schools and NEI, the Code of Conduct submitted to Metro Nashville Public Schools, Attachment J, Nashville Collegiate Prep, Nashville Metropolitan Government, Attachment N, Metro Nashville Public Schools is listed as a proposed authorizer on amended and initial applications. It appears that not a single board member of applicant is a Rutherford County resident, further evidencing a lack of local support as there is no local leadership on the charter school board. This is notable in that the applicant will be requesting millions of dollars of local tax funding over the next several years, and the applicant's board failed to have any Rutherford County citizens on the board or any leadership positions. The Board of Education's concern regarding lack of local support remains. Applicant lacks a fundamental understanding of the operations of Rutherford County schools, and in particular the high school enrollment growth experienced by Rutherford County in grades 6 through 8 due to Murfreesboro City School students entering the Rutherford County school system. Applicant states that applicants' enrollment projections were built on the expectations of natural attrition, in particular the middle grades. This is inaccurate in Rutherford County. Rutherford County students, the Rutherford without contingency financial plan has not provided clear evidence of the applicant's capacity to execute its plan successfully based on the Rutherford County School System's current transportation system. Buses will be insufficient for the applicant's proposed enrollment of approximately 700 students enrolled from across the county. The plan does not address transportation needs transportation to have the lack of transportation is poverty identified by the applicant. Furthermore, in multiple schools, this further evidences a lack of capacity to successfully execute this specific plan in Rutherford County. Rutherford County notes that the applicant's management organization, NEI, is operating knowledge academies in Metro Davidson County, making the applicant a Category 2 applicant based on it being an existing Tennessee. Applicant's amended application continues to fail to provide information required by a Category 2 applicant, and the application fails to meet the requirements for a Category 2 applicant. The Board of Education notes it earlier determined that the applicant's original application to be incomplete for failure to provide all components required under state law for a Category 2 charter school applicant. The Board of Education sought guidance from the Tennessee Department of Education, the Tennessee State Board of Education, and the Tennessee Charter School Commission regarding how to categorize the application and what criteria should be applied. The Tennessee Department of Education determined that the state guidelines had not provided clear guidance for applications from such entities as the applicant that had been approved in another district but had not yet established a history of serving students. A waiver was granted by the Tennessee Department of Education to the Board of Education as to the timeline requirements for action on the original application. The Board of Education took further action to review the application as a complete application, and the application was denied by the Board of Education on July 22nd, 2021. D. Impact on the Rutherford County School System of the applicant's plan requiring immediate system to stay solvent and may require additional funds on an emergency basis if enrollment is as quickly as the beginning of the school as budgeted as for its existing schools. $4.8 million school system and 615 You have a second that denies the charter school application and cites reasons for denial. The board's discretion to adopt these proposed basis for denying the application here in the resolution. You can add to it or delete from it or amend it as you see fit. In the end, the denial does incorporate all the findings of the review committee that was reported to you earlier. So that is incorporated in here. So with that, the issue is really before the board now is to adopt the resolution either approving the charter school application or to adopt the resolution denying the charter school application.
Thank you. Any comments or discussion?
I'm just shocked that they just don't have any support, from what I can tell, in this county, and I don't believe this is something that we need. So I'm not for it.
I agree with you, Ms. Maxwell.
Since it's proposed to go in my area, and there is an assumption that this is going to be approved anyway by the Charter Commission, is this something that it's just a mere formality?
Well, the board has to act on the amended application, so you have to take action one way or the other. If you take no action, the application would be deemed under state law to be approved. If the application is denied, charter school commission, and they will ultimately have the determination whether or not the charter school is approved or not. So you don't really know, the board does not know at this point what decision the charter school commission would make. So you're speculating that it might be approved, but we don't know that.
Reed, can I interject there? Okay, if the commission does approve, then the LEA becomes the commission, which means that the school's accountability in terms of achievement would be on them, not our schools.
Mr. Reed, if you were done, Ms. Sharp.
Yes.
And I think we may have discussed this at the last meeting, but refresh my memory, who comprises the commission? If we were to deny the application tonight, who is the commission comprised of that will make that ruling if they appeal it?
They are appointees of the governor.
You may want to give them a complete rundown.
It is a brand-new commission that was appointed by the governor that operates this year. You can find out their biographies on their website. It is very much individuals who have worked in charter schools in the past, and some other legislators as well. And just to your point, Ms. Sharp, they heard their first appeals this week, the Tennessee Charter Commission. They overturned one, but also upheld one. So I think we would know, depending on our evidence.
You ready for a motion?
If there's no further discussion.
I'd like to make a motion that we deny the charter school application with the resolution which has the many reasons that we are denying it.
Thank you, Ms. Breton.
Second it.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. Ms. Hopkins, would you please take the roll?
Now, if I vote yes, that means we're denying it, right?
Your motion is to deny the application and to adopt the resolution denying the application.
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. Next item. Number 11.
Number 11, CTE Career Cluster found on tab 2. Curriculum and instruction. The CTE department would like to allocate approximately $15,000 of Perkins 2021-22 funds to support CTE curriculum team leads for our high school CTE career clusters. The purpose of the CTE curriculum team lead would be to help develop instructional capacity of our teachers, industry partners, and students within our county. Leads would be responsible for conducting in-person and virtual meetings for career cluster PLCs and advisory council meetings. The allocations are as follows. Each participant receives $500 stipend for conducting professional development sessions and advisory council meetings through the PLC framework for the CTE career clusters. On the next page, you can see the career clusters being identified, the ambassador, and the location of these ambassadors. Motion to approve allocating $15,000 of Perkins funds to support CTE curriculum team leads for our high school CTE career clusters. Each participant will receive $500 stipend for conducting professional development sessions through the PLC framework by CTE career clusters across the district to support teacher and student success as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or discussion among the board? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Estes. Thank you, Mr. Young. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain from a vote? Motion passes. Next item.
All right, number 12, curriculum and instruction, Plainview Elementary, found on tab 3. Plainview Elementary School Principal Dr. Mark Gagne is requested to pilot NIET Accelerating Character Education Development Resources at Plainview Elementary. Curriculum instruction is to review the submitted materials in support of this pilot program. For participation, NIET will provide Plainview Elementary with a $3,500 stipend. Motion to approve the Plainview Elementary School to participate in the Accelerated Character Education Development pilot with NIET.
Thank you. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Does any member wish to abstain from a vote? Item passes. Next item.
It's legal tab 4. We read these the other night, but this is policy committee recommended the following changes. 1A, policy 1.400, school board meetings. It added guidelines for posters and visitors during school board meetings. B, policy 1.404, appeals to and appearances before the board. Made changes to the visitor process and decorum requirements in line with allowable and unallowable restrictions as established by the Sixth Court Circuit of Appeals. C, policy 703, school attendance, zones, and exemption. Updates the zone exemption policy to reflect the required state law, Public Chapter 479. D, policy 4.602, grade point average, GPA, and class rank 9 through 12, clarifies ACT tie-breaking mechanism. E, policy 6.200, attendance, added clarity to the process for approving excused absences for non-school sponsored extracurricular activities from state board policy. F, 6.502, foreign exchange students, place control of acceptance or denial of foreign exchange students with principals and remove components no longer applicable. The number 2 new policies, policy 4.204, summer instructional programs. This is required by law. It sets out general expectations for summer learning and other learning loss programs mandated by law. And B, policy 6.4052, opioid antagonists. New state law allows nurses to store the Narcan to respond to overdoses. Recommend motion to approve the adopted of these above policies at first of 2 readings as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, concerns, or comments on policies?
Yes, Madam Chair, I would submit that given the contentious nature of a couple of these proposed policy changes, that we need to vote on them individually.
Agree.
Mr. Reed? Mr. Reed? Ms. Moore has asked that we vote on these individually. Before we vote, could you explain to us these policies? Ms. Page, during the policy committee meeting, was able to tell us where some of these policies were derived from, why they're necessary. Can you elaborate on that for us, please?
The policy manual is just kind of one aspect of the school system. You make decisions in lots of different ways. There are, and the state law vests the Board of Education with responsibility and authority to manage the school system as a whole. So you can take actions however you seem fit with respect to many items. The policy book is it sets forth general rules that are applied to various things that the school system deals with on a regular basis. They are often affected by state law. Every legislative session, you will usually have changes that the state legislature adopts that pertain to education. And to the extent those changes require different things to be done in the school system, we often incorporate those into the policies for the school system. And there is a state organization called the Tennessee School Board Association, which most of the school systems in Tennessee are members of. And they have a branch of their office which puts together recommended policies which you're not required to adopt, but are recommended policies that mirror changes in legislation that's taking place at the state level. It also kind of reflects what different school systems are doing across the state. So when you see changes coming before the board with these recommended policies, a lot of them are dictated by changes in state law. And secondly, a lot are coming from TSBA, which proposes changes to their proposed model policies to be reflective of what's happening in the school systems in your general area in the state of Tennessee. So these policies are not just simply a reflection of what's going on internally within Rutherford County, but they really are a reflection of what happens within the state of Tennessee as a whole, and with respect to what school systems are facing and how they're dealing with issues that come up on a recurring basis.
Thank you. These 2 policies, the school board meetings, Mr. Reed, the school board meeting policy 1.400 and 1.404, those are mirrored policies. Other systems around us have adopted similar policies, correct?
Correct. There are similar policies to what Williams County and other counties around us have adopted, yes.
Thank you. And Ms. Moore has asked that we vote on each policy on its own. So can you guide us through that, Director?
That's up to the board how you want to vote on it. You can vote to deal with them separately or vote to deal with them collectively as the board sees fit to do.
Thank you. So if Ms. Moore has requested that we vote on them separately, would she need to make a motion?
There would need to be a motion to that effect, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll make that motion that we need to, the board needs to vote on each of these policies individually.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Ms. Hopkins?
Ms. Sharp?
Yes.
Ms. Bratton?
No.
Mr. Young? No. Mr. Estes?
No.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Maxwell?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
No. Motion fails. Okay, moving on. Motion has failed, so we will, if there's no further discussion, we'll entertain a motion.
I so move.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Young. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Nay.
Any member wish to abstain from a vote? Motion passes. Next item.
All right, number 3, disciplinary hearing appeal. The board has been requested to review the decision of the disciplinary hearing authority to uphold the remandment of the student from Riverdale High School. The student was expelled for 1 calendar year under board policy 6.309 for possession of illegal drugs. This is a zero tolerance offense. The director of schools modified the zero tolerance offense to allow the student to attend the alternative school in lieu of a 1-year expulsion. Based on the review of the DHA's record, the board may do the following. A, affirm the decision of the DHA, B, overturn the decision of the DHA, or C, grant a hearing before the board. Motion to the board for to initiate a motion in line with one of the above that were mentioned.
Thank you. Any discussion, comments?
I just want to make sure if we affirm the decision of the DHA, he will have a chance to come back to.
And modified, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, okay. Because it does seem like that would warrant.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion?
And if this gentleman works the program correctly, he could be back within 45 days. Is that?
You had to work through the program, right?
For 45 days. So it could.
That's the shortest period of time,
Right.
But
So
definitely by January, you'd have an opportunity.
as long as they complete the program that they need to at the alternative school.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll entertain a motion.
I move to uphold.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Was that Ms. Sharp? Second. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Does any member wish to abstain? Motion passes.
Number 15, approval of director's school evaluation instruments found on tab 6 for the 2020-2021 school year.
Thank you. Just some comments on this. There is no modification of the instrument. This is a policy process. Mr. Reed, you may be able to help us and speak to this, why we're seeing this on the agenda.
A couple of months ago, maybe 3 months ago, the board voted to adopt a new instrument for the director of schools for the next year. And there was discussion about the school system, about the board using the previous instrument for this most recent year as passed. But there was never actually a vote taken on that. So this is coming back to the board just to take formal action on it. I think the board was understanding that it had approved this, but he had not actually, when we went back and looked at votes, there had never been a vote on it. So this is a vote to kind of do what I think most board members had expected to do already, but it's a motion to approve the previously adopted instruments for the Director of Schools evaluation for the 2020-2021 year as presented.
So to be clear, we have to approve, the board needs to approve the instrument that the director will be evaluated with, and then we can use that instrument in 90 days after our vote, correct?
Correct, yes.
So that's why we're seeing it back on the agenda.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions, concerns, or comments from the board? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Thank you, Mr. Reed.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Estes. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Does any member wish to abstain from a vote? Thank you. May the record reflect that Ms. Moore has abstained. Item passes. Number 16.
We had the insurance update.
Yes, our next insurance committee meeting will be Monday at 3:30.
Thank you. Number 17.
All right, two things. First of all, I think we've already mentioned the U.S. News and World Report about McFadden being #1 in the state of Tennessee as far as elementary. They were #1 in math proficiency and tied for #1 in reading. But also Thurman Francis was 3rd. And we also had Eagleville Campus School, Las Casas, and those are also in the 10%. So that's top 10%. That's pretty good. All right. Next thing was we've had this lymphoma and leukemia fundraiser, and right before fall break, we asked, actually one of our principals volunteered to do a fundraiser, and it was basically like 3 days fundraiser. That was Dr. Ruiz of Oakland Middle School, and in 3 days, she sold enough shirts where we profited for this fundraiser over $5,300. So I'm going to give a shout out for Dr. Ruiz for doing that.
Wonderful. It's wonderful.
If I may, Ms. Johnson, I just want to say thank you, because obviously that has a lot to do with my son Declan and his journey with leukemia. So truly thank you to all of Rutherford County for the continued support. He actually went to treatment today, so it's ironic that the day to wear them is tomorrow. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Number 18, Tennessee Legislative. Ms. Maxwell?
Well, I don't know if y'all have been paying attention to the news, but there is a committee that's been formed by the Tennessee Department of Education. They created a steering committee and 18 subcommittees as the state reviews its basic education program, BEP, which uses 46 different factors to determine state funding for public schools. The review is part of a plan designed by Governor Bill Lee to examine and develop a new funding mechanism to be presented in January's regular session. The committee ranges from teacher or principal advisory subcommittees to urban, suburban, and rural subcommittees, and they also include education foundation students, students with disabilities, post-secondary readiness, and fiscal responsibility committees. When Governor Lee presented the plan to revamp the BEP, he said a new funding formula would be more student-based funding strategy than a system-based funding strategy. And Representative Mark White, who is from Memphis, and he's the chair of the House Education Administration Committee, said this is the right time for the overhaul of the BEP for many reasons, including the fact that the state beat its tax revenue estimate by $3.1 billion last fiscal year, along with the one-time pandemic federal funding increasing. I think that now is the time we want to increase teacher pay, and we want to make sure that there is enough money for all of the teachers that the schools need. That's why I think it's important to look at it now, because the state over the next 3, 4, or 5 years will have more reoccurring revenue. Tennessee has allocated $5.6 billion for public education spending this fiscal year combined, with about $1 billion in federal funds and $4 billion from local entities. Tennessee ranked 45th in the nation in per pupil spending at $11,328 in 2020-21. According to a National Education Association report. The Education Law Center gave Tennessee a bad grade, a grade of F for that school funding. Johnson said the state would need to spend $1.7 billion more on public education to reach the average for funding in southeastern states. I looked at the committee, and it's a real smorgasbord of different entities. It's got Student Engagement Committee. They've got a little girl who is a senior at Coffee County High School on there. Brad Turner, who is the chairman of the Students with Disabilities and Gifted Students Committee. He's our Disabilities Commissioner. And English Learner Subcommittee. I mean, they really have done a really good job of going across section. It's not just urban, it's rural, and they really are listening to, I think they're going to do a good job of listening to our teachers, our parents, our students, and trying to get the best formula that they can. So that's very important. And also, the legislature is looking to call a special session, and it was going to, in a couple of weeks, and it was going to be about the car dealership, the electric cars, but it's going to spin off, and they expect it to spin off on the topic of mask and lease opt-out initiative. Most recently, 3 different federal judges have said the governor doesn't have the authority to override school districts implementing mask policies, but the Tennessee Governor Lee and the Tennessee Attorney General said in a recent press conference that his office planned to challenge these judges' orders. And so that's about, we're just going to be kind of waiting and see on that.
Wonderful. Thank you. Do you have anything for federal?
The federal, I wanted to talk about 2 things. One is, I think you all saw in the news tonight, and it's very pertinent about the National School Board Association. We are in no shape and form affiliated with them. We broke with them a little over a year ago. They are not in line with what we believe in and local school control and listening to our parents. That is vital, that we listen to our constituents and we listen to our parents. So I just wanted to let you all know that we have nothing to do with them. And I'm very concerned about, and I'm keeping an eye on Washington when it comes to the vaccination mandate. I personally am not for that. So that seems to be what's going on in the federal government.
Thank you. We talked a little bit about this earlier as well, Ms. Maxwell, about the Tennessee School Board Association had actually issued a statement saying that the statements that were made by the National School Board Association were not reflection of Tennessee at all, and we do not share in their sentiment. So we're thankful that TSBA has had the discernment to separate us from them. So thank you for the update. I appreciate it. Number 20, general discussion. Is there any general discussion this evening?
I would like to mention, speaking of TSBA, Dr. Hatchett's in the audience. I know she's back there. The Laverne High School Band has been chosen to do the closing ceremonies at the State of Tennessee Convention next month. It's the 18th, 19th, and 20th or something like that. So it's Sunday morning. We're going to have to get up early to get to Opryland Hotel, but we're very proud of Laverne and a lot of things that are coming up out of the North End. Thank you, Dr. Hatchett, for your leadership.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Anything else?
I just want to say, I've been really excited to see in the news that there are some medications coming down the pipe, some antivirals that are coming, and hopefully they will be a game changer that we need in not just this community, but for our state and for our nation and for the world. And I just want to say I'm very excited to have these drugs available.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. Anything else this evening? Seeing nothing else, we are adjourned.